What's going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and I'm going to be doing a slate preview of the NBA slate for tonight. And as usual, it's very difficult to figure out the best way to handle all this. Because on the one hand, so much changes throughout the course of the day, leading up to, and most importantly, the last half hour before the slate starts, that you can make the argument that you don't really even need to think about the slate until a half hour before lock anyway, because everything has changed. However, I feel as though it's important to get a sense of what the slate could look like and maybe do some early builds, and also, again, continue to familiarize yourself with projections, with your process and things like that when you're not completely stressed and under the time constraints. Because what you'll find is that, okay, if I don't worry about anything until 20 minutes before post time, then I'm just firing my stuff, and then I have no idea, if I'm even doing it right anymore. So I want to go back when we have time to do these afternoon slate breakdowns to give people an idea, number one, of what to expect, and number two, kind of like a very chilled lineup build, so we can see how to build given the information we have and things like that. So the first thing you'll note is that, I'm going to note it now. I'm going to share my screen, and sometimes I will share my own sheet where I have the projections here. But right now I'm sharing the TrueDFS interface. And the reason for that is this. You'll note that we have three different sets of projections that go up for the NBA. All right, this is SS. This is, if you're a SaberSim subscriber, you get access to the SaberSim projections. And Goldie does his, and also I do mine. And we upload them ourselves. We don't consult with one another, and we put them up here as well. And what that does, it gives you the opportunity to pick which one that you use. Like you could use mine, you could use SaberSim's, you could use an average of the three. You could do a weighted average and anything like that. So I guess the first thing I would mention is that what seems very logical for people to want to do is to average them, especially when you're not sure who's the best and whatever. And some sports, I would say it's really not a good idea. But for NBA, I actually don't think it's that bad of an idea. To average them. So if you do have the opportunity to average them for NBA, I think it's actually not that bad. As far as ownership, same thing. You could use Goldie's, Sheets, or the average or whatever. Okay. Now, when you're going to run contest sims, it's not going to matter too much because you're going to use the contest fields most of the time that SaberSim provides, unless you're going to do your own, which maybe we'll get into a little bit today also. But so you do have this opportunity to pick which projection and ownership you use to build your original 5,000 or however many lineup set that you want to build, or one lineup, or whatever. And again, the ownership does matter if you're going to rate them by SaberScore, because SaberScore does take into account ownership fade when it's ranking their lineups. Okay. The other thing I want to do here from here is see, just kind of eyeball, if there's any projections at least now that are off. That have big difference. Like for example, here I have Ja Morant listed as in, as does SaberSim, but Goldie has him as out. So we're gonna have to, we have to figure that out. Okay. And I like to kind of just scroll down here and see if there's any real big discrepancies along the way, with the exception of Morant. They all look very, very close. Let me just take a quick look and see if Morant's in, out, whatever. Just not sure. Over, in, out. Oh, Morant was suspended. What is this news? 1 game suspension. Let's take a look at this. Morant. That was 1 day ago. Suspended 1 game. However, let me just see this. Just little bit of research. Sorry, a little bit of research on the list here. So it looks as though one suspension. He'd be held out of Sunday contest. I mean, I can't imagine why he wouldn't play today. So we'll see. If anybody has any confirmation of John Morant, whatever. But the point is that we'll have that. Okay, whatever's going on with that situation, we're certainly going to have that. So the only reason I bring this up is, again, like, all these projections are very, very close to one another. So you could average them and be well within your rights to do so. All right, let's go through kind of like game by game and see what's up here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the game, so you put this little filter on. And then what I want to do is just look at value, so like point per dollar. And in this first game here, you have like a bunch of guys that are over 5x, not to mention, Giannis, 5x with a big fantasy point score also. So all these guys look pretty good. Quentin Jackson, Ryan Rollins, Jarris Walker, Miles Turner. All these guys look really, really good. As far as ownership goes, it looks as though they're all, sort of tame. Now, again, this is early, but we'll see. But this all looks pretty reasonable. So right out of the gate, you have a big total. Spreads, close enough. You can already start making cases for like Giannis with a couple of these Indiana pieces, and kind of off to a good start. Minnesota and Brooklyn. Again, we're what's the word I'm looking for? Defaulting to value here. And Tyrese Martin looks to be one of the top, if not the top, overall value on the slate. 5.69 value. Now, what you can do, by the way, I'm going to open this in a different tab, actually, just so we don't go back to it. If you want to see the projections in and of themselves, you go like here. The reason why I want to show you these is we'll look at Goldies, for example. Like this actually rates them by what's called Sheets Value Score, which is kind of puts one number on like the whole thing, where you take into account both points per dollar and upside or whatever. So you could sort these by point per dollar or by Sheets Value Score. Okay. So with Minnesota and Brooklyn, Tyrese Martin, I mentioned, very, very strong point per dollar play. And he's really it. Everybody else looks really, really bad. So Tyrese Martin would be the big value piece over there. And then when we go back, again, let's just make sure there's no Minnesota guys. So Julius Randle is like reasonable enough. Reasonable enough play. 8,700, moderate ownership. So if we get to him, that's not going to be a terrible thing. But overall, it looks as though Tyrese Martin is the only real big play from this game. All right, Houston and Boston. Once again, it looks as though the big point per dollar play on the slate is going to be Nurkic, with Kessler presumed out. He is going to project at 6x, which is obviously very, very strong. And he's going to be, I imagine, pretty popular. Yeah, it's looking like 39% projected ownership, at least from me. And that seems like a reasonable estimate. So, he's going to be a very focal point of all your cash games and low risk. And even in high risk, you probably want to play like a bunch of him. It's kind of tough to fade this type of thing. But then again, it's not like he's 7x or 8x or anything like that. So I don't know. We'll see. And as for on a points per dollar play basis, the rest of this game, You have Taylor Hendricks at 3,400. If he starts again, he's going to look good. Now you'll notice here that this is one of the plays that Goldie has a little different than me and that Saber Sim and I do. So we'll keep an eye on that. 10% ownership certainly looks reasonable. But again, all these guys are 5x. You know what I mean? 5.3x. Hendricks, Pritchard, might not. That's awful. Sorry. Then you have Derek White, 7,200. That's actually pretty good. I bet he's got a good value score too. Take a look. Let's see. Yeah, no, Jaylen Brown. Yes. Yeah, it wasn't so much Derek White. It's like 149. But Jaylen Brown, I guess both of them are pretty decent. So I think either of those two, what they say, good players from Boston, I think makes sense. Either Jaylen Brown or Derek White. Pritchard, decent value. Minot, decent value. But Nurkic is the main value, and maybe Hendricks can get in there also. Just make sure there's nothing else that I missed from this game before we dispatch with that. Lauri Markkanen, 8,100. He has an okay value score, not great, and his ownership isn't that low. So, listen, I've done wonders playing this dude, but I don't know if the price is going to be warranted here. So, not the price, just the absence of like a good score really is going to be warranted here. So again, from this game, I expect to get, and we're going to do a build after we're done with this to see what we actually get, but I'm expecting Nurkic, obviously. And then you could play any one of these Boston guys, honestly. Pritchard, Minot, White. Maybe I wouldn't play both. Maybe one of these three. Pritchard, Brown, and White. Maybe not play two of them. Okay, Washington and the Knicks. Be careful of all injury news. I presume that Mitch Robb is out. We'll get to that. Look at the value here. Cat looks like a very strong play here. Wow. So it is a back-to-back, I guess, but this is a 5.4x for his price. I mean, I bet he's got a big value score. Yeah, he's third overall in my list. So like with Jokic, then Giannis, and then Cat at third at 8,500. That's a very strong score here, as is this Jalen Brunson. So I think we're getting into our first set of like big pay-ups here. It's not even that expensive. So Cat, Jalen Brunson, both very, very strong plays here. Aside from that, I got nothing in this game. So we're starting to build kind of an idea of what this slate's going to look like, right? You have already like a couple of very strong mid-rangers between Cat and Brunson, and then in Boston you have a couple between Jaylen Brown and Derek White. And then you have these random values. I mean, you have like Nurkic, and you have Tyrese Martin from Brooklyn we talked about, and a couple of these Indiana guys. And you could also play, obviously, Giannis. We talked about him. Okay, Dallas against Houston. Jabari Smith Jr. is questionable. So that is clearly going to impact what happens here. If he's out, everybody gets a bump. But, I mean, already you're getting, good projections and good numbers on Tari Eason and Amin Thompson. 5.5x on the $4,600 guy, that's good. But the 5.29x on the $7,300 guy is almost as good. So this is very, very strong. I mean, we look at this metric here, I bet you they both show up as okay. Amin Thompson's not bad, right alongside of Derek White. Okay, so good playing there. And then Tari Eason, very, very strong value play. So Eason, Amin Thompson, best plays from this game. Nobody else really rates over 5x. We got to watch the Jabari Smith Jr. news, obviously. And you see the Dallas, I really didn't get too much of anything. Like, let's see. No, I mean, why am I? what's his name out? I guess, right? Let's see. Yeah, Davis is out. No one else is showing up. Yeah, I guess they adjusted their prices nicely. All right, Detroit and the aforementioned Memphis Grizzlies with the with the John Morant situation. So it doesn't look like anything's that great here. I mean, you have your top overall point per dollar play at being Oscar Thompson at 5.3x at 6K. It's a very borderline. And then you have Durant at 5.17x, but again, at 7K, that's not terrible, but it's not great. So we're not really seeing any big value. So we have to again go back to this sheet here and see if anybody shows up as kind of a good like upside, just high fantasy point play. That would be Cunningham. So Cunningham looks good. Okay. Aside from that, so Cunningham, Oscar Thompson. This is going to be kind of the short list, and Memphis pretty much nothing. And then in the last game, we have Sacramento and Denver. I imagine Westbrook should look okay again, but I mean, it's not bad. 5.3x, 6K. Yeah, I mean, sure, why not? I mean, if we rate him again for like everybody, okay. I mean, he's still the top 10, right? He's still top 10, and he's one of the more expensive of them, which means that he's going to show up with a decent value score also, like Sheets value score. So he's very, very good. This is actually going to be a very, very strong play. Russell Westbrook. And Jokic, obviously, just pure fantasy points and ceiling. Best Sheets value score on the board, as almost always is. Yep, higher than Giannis. So that looks good. So it's just really those two guys from this game. So, if you wanted to make a slate seem small, I mean, we were able to kind of reduce what plays looked good to really 20 guys, right? I mean, just to reiterate, from Milwaukee, you have Giannis, and then Indiana, we had a bunch of value, right? Well, first of all, we had Ryan Rollins, right? So we had Rollins and Giannis from Milwaukee, and then Indiana, we had Quentin Jackson, Jarris Walker. Those were top plays there. Minnesota, Brooklyn game, the only thing we really had was Tyrese Martin. Utah, Boston, we had Pritchard. You had your choice of Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White from Boston. Utah, you had Nurkic was the good player there. We'll check to see if Hendricks is starting. Knicks, you have two good plays in Brunson and Cat. That's pretty much it. Dallas, Houston, you had Tari Eason. We're watching for the Jabari Smith news, but Tari Eason and Amin Thompson. Detroit, you can get up to Cade if you want. Not too much here. Oscar Thompson is the best play here. In this game, Sacramento, you have Russell Westbrook, and then on the other side, you have Nikola Jokic. So you have maybe a handful of like really strong core plays here that you can build around. But let's take a look and see what SaberSim will give us. So what we're going to do is we're going to upload our entries from DraftKings. I already submitted for dummy lineups. Well, I put in something. And so what I'm playing here, I'm going to play 70 in the lottery, 20 in the four ball, whatever, and one and three kind of bigger buy-ins. So what I want to do first is I want to put in build one, and we're going to use my projection. We use Sheets' projection, Sheets' ownership, and then template one group per contest as far as my sims will go. And we're going to put portfolio diversification mode, which is going to do exactly that. And then we are going to build, right? Anything else? No, nothing else to do. So let's see what we get. And I think you'll be surprised. We won't be surprised. I don't think you'll be surprised to see that the top guys I will be getting in these sim lineups are going to be very damn close to the ones that I just talked about. Why? Because NBA is just a very projectable sport. It doesn't really deviate too much from expectation, which is what makes it hard. You know, you have to be able to really push very, very small edges in the NBA. And sometimes you just have to let it, let the slate come to you instead of trying to force stuff. It's very, very difficult. And not to mention how quickly the news flows, requiring you to adjust very, very aggressively. Okay, let's see. See, it's spinning. That means it's allegedly doing its thing. Now I should pick, I guess, what the contest sims. Yep. You see all the way on the left. You see what we're headed here. Look at all these guys. It's exactly what I was saying. Nurkic, Martin, Jackson, Eason, Rollins, Towns. So it's not. Nothing is in the NBA. Nothing is that complicated. Let's look at exposures here. I mean, these are. Oh, Gary Harris. No, he was. If I do by exposure, it's not listed this way. That's a weird way to list them. The portion of my lineups, okay, yeah, because it had my dummy lineups in them. So you'll see, like, what's different here than what I talked about? Nothing. So we save them, and then we just put them in. Now, this isn't going to mean this is what sticks. On the one hand, we're going to have to change projections as we get closer to the lock. The other thing is that you have to be around the late swap. This is the NBA. I mean, you have to be late swapping all throughout the evening. Once the ownership comes in, the 7 p.m. games, you're going to want to redo everything, the 7:30s. And once the 7:30 ownership comes in, you're going to want to redo everything for the 8s. And then even once those 8s come in, you're just going to have to rerun everything for this last game. Now, again, there are probably going to be very few changes you can make in that last game, but it's very important to continue to engage in this process. Okay, as long as I have you guys here, again, I do stuff because it's what I'm doing. I'm not doing it because you want to see it. It's literally I was doing this anyway, so I figured I may as well fire this up. So this is FanDuel. I'm going to put up. I didn't even do my FanDuel projections yet. So what we can do is we could use Goldies for these purposes. Let me just make sure they're up there. Yeah, there he is, Goldies. So let's first of all let's upload our entries. Download these from FanDuel. Good question, Jay. I'm going to answer that in a second. Okay, let's put this up here. Question is, do you late swap with SaberSim or your projections? So the quick answer is that, that's actually not the quick answer, is that if I've done updated projections, I'll use them. It's usually, it depends on how much time I have. I might not have the time to do updated projections, so I might just have to use SaberSims. But if I can, make them better, I'll make them better. But what I do use are SaberSims live ownership projections, because they're actually taking the data from the actual games that have already passed and redoing the ownership projections based on that information. Now, the other thing that's interesting, kind of a derivative of question for what you just said, is if I update the projections, is it going to update? No, what I was getting, this is funny. So technically, what SaberSim is supposed to do is take into account what everybody has scored already to figure out what you're supposed to be playing in later games, really. So if I change, let's say the Indiana game. So Giannis. Let's say Giannis has 70. 70, whatchamacallit, let's say you have 70 fantasy points projected for him. If you redo it, now it's gonna take into account SaberSim, the new score actually that's actually been given. Portfolio Plus doesn't take into account a sort method. Yeah, what Portfolio is supposed to do is it's supposed to take a look. Again, this is what it's supposed to do. Let's take a look at your whole, your whole bucket, your whole bucket, and say, okay, given that you're playing X amount of dollars in this, X amount of dollars in that, X amount of dollars in this, X amount of dollars in that, how is it assigning lineups to your portfolio? So what you're asking then is, does it mean it sorts by its own ROI or based on their field lineups? Not exactly sure what you're asking. Let me try to answer it, I guess. And again, if I'm confused, I'll reach out to SaberSim and get some clarification on it. I think what it does is it does first, it does a sort method. You know what I mean? First, it does almost like autofill, right? But then when it goes into diversification mode, then it takes into account everything that you're playing and then kind of reshuffles kind of everything. Okay. That's my interpretation of your question, I guess. So again, let's do it. Let's do this again. All right. So let's do this. So let's go through this whole process. So it's all in here, 250 lineups. Let's templates, direct fill. So actually not direct fill. We're going to go all contests in one group. No, one group for contest. And so, right. So what it's going to do right now is now, like before it goes into portfolio diversification mode, it does have a sort method. And it's sorted by up here. Okay, so it's first, what it does, it goes monster, then shot, then floater. Okay. But so if you didn't have any like portfolio diversification mode, if you went like this, I'll show you. Okay, so let's go min uniques 1, min uniques 1, min uniques 1. Okay, this, and then well, first we have to run this first. Okay. So this is what we're going to do. First, we're going to leave it in regular min uniques 1 or something like that. So all it's going to do is now it's going to do the sort method. What it's going to do. Why did I change it? Because I like it one group per contest, so that it's more right. That's the way I always do it. No, it's no good. So we have this, and now it's running these things, selecting the lineups, and it's already, I have it already running the contest sims. So it's doing the same thing it always does. So it goes run contest sims. Let's just see. This is FanDuel. I just want to make sure that this is doing this right. This is sort of interesting. Why is it rated by old Saber score? Interesting. Let's make sure that it's... Why Why is it rated by Old Sabre score? This is a very good exercise here. It wants to be rated by Old Sabre score. Oh, lineups. 0 lineups available, but 1 requested. Why are 0 lineups available? Oh, it was listed by ROI. Sorry. Target contest by ROI. Target contest by ROI. So you're saying that it's using default contest sim output and then diversifying. I think the way I'd rather describe it is it's diversifying, like based on what, on what your total portfolio looks like. So like right now, like I just had a rate by ROI. Let's resend this, okay? So now we have, these exposures here like this. And then I could save them. But then if instead, hang on. Yeah, but the way that I just did this for hockey a little bit earlier, John. Still think that even in portfolio diversification mode, the lineup that sims the best against the the contest that matters the most is going to go in there. And that has to be the case, right? So it's sorting by ROI, like on a contest by contest basis. You know what I mean? Like first it's sorting by ROI for the monster and putting the lineup into the monster. Then what it's doing is it's taking that lineup out and resorting by the shot and then putting in that. And then it's taking those 100 out and then taking the next 150 and putting them in the floater. But then that is when it's sorting by whatever, by min uniques. But then after that, when you go into portfolio diversification mode, I still think that that's not going to affect the fact that the top lineup that's simming in this one at the top is going to be going in there. I think. I think that what I said is correct. As a matter of fact, what I might do, I might actually take a snip of this this video, and I'll send this to Jordan from SaberSim, and he can tell me if I've explained this correctly. Because I know it's confusing. It's confusing to me too sometimes. So let's save these. Let's save these efforts. So in order to use Portfolio Plus, you must trust their field lineups. I would go further than that, actually. I would say to trust, I would say even if you were going to use just min uniques, you'd have to trust their field lineups, no? I think once you get out of Sabre score, then you have to trust their field lineups. So unless what you want to do is this, okay, so here's another thing you can do. Okay, let's do something else. Okay, let's talk about field lineups for a minute. Okay, let's make sure this got in. Let's go back to DraftKings. So instead of wanting to trust their field lineups. Let's not. Let's upload our own projection. Oh, well, I'll go back there. Hold on. Let's upload our own projections again. Where am I here? And then click on this bad boy here where it says automatically create custom fields from ownership. Okay, and let's see. Oh, did I not do it right? Hold on. I do it over here. Hold on a minute. Oh, maybe I can't do it on the. Hold on a minute. I gotta be able to do this, right? It doesn't seem to be. Well, this is a little odd. So, I mean, here's a weird thing. So, in TrueDFS, in this template, it doesn't seem to let me build my own field. But well, let's take a look at that, John. Let's test all of this. This is very, very helpful. I could bring all this to the boys over there, and we could get some answers. So here, I'm just on regular Sabre. I'm not like within like an embedded version of it. So let's go here. Oh, I could have done that. Right. Okay, sorry. Right. So we'll do this. We'll do it from here. We can even do it from here. So we'll call this. We'll make this yours. We don't need to do 20,000 for purposes of this. Let's just do this. Yep, thanks, John. Let's just do it from here first. So you're saying that if we use my own contest fields, then we cannot utilize the portfolio diversifier? Is that the contention? Okay, so this is the field. Let's see what it does. Test. Let's again. Let's these. So let's change the fadeaway to John Test. Keep everything else the same. Unless you know a way to sort the way you want it to first. And then, yeah, but I'm pretty sure, John. I mean, you could be right, but I'm pretty sure that when we build this way, yeah, then it'll sort in the order that it was designed. Oh, that'd be amazing, John, if I did. I'll show you that click in a second again. I always click one group per contest, and it sorts from the top down. Oh, okay. And obviously, we can always move these up and down if we feel like it. Yeah, so unfortunately, because it's all very, very black box, I mean, like, I have no idea exactly what it's doing. But I'm pretty sure that if you use your, I think that you could use your own contest fields and still make use of the diversifier in the way that I just sort of demonstrated by accident. So you know what? Jordan owes me a session anyway. I mean, I want to go over a couple of other things with him. I do think it's important to clarify that. So here, like he mentioned, by the way, like if you want to, yeah. So here you could, right, as John very astutely pointed out right here, like you could do this right from here as well. You could do generate field from ownership, and it would do the same thing that I did before. Okay, that was very helpful. First of all, I appreciate all those questions, because I promise you that if John had those questions, that many people did, as did myself, because I wasn't exactly sure what you were saying either. And if you think of something else that we didn't, you're like, oh no, what I really meant was this, post it in the Discord. And again, like SaberSim itself is really good about responding to questions, but if not, maybe reach out to me in the Discord, and I'll try to reach out to them as well. That's going to pretty much do it. Very, very useful session. Appreciate everybody.